Most people's first tabletop experience is with the big one, Dungeons and Dragons. For me, that was not the case. It was Mutants and Masterminds, followed by Savage Worlds, and then eventually Dungeons and Dragons. So how did that frame my play for Dungeons and Dragons? And then after I had finally played it, how did that frame every game after Dungeons and Dragons? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Sacred Art of Gaming, where we love talking about tabletop gaming. And today we're talking about something that I really haven't talked about at all. And we're like 150 videos in. And that is Dungeons and Dragons. Kind of. I think this topic is worth discussing because most people start with Dungeons and Dragons or something very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. That was not the case at all for me. The games that I was playing were pretty different. And honestly, that was mainly because the minis that I had at my disposal and what I felt comfortable GMing, because I didn't even play first, I GM'd first. I felt like I'd be better off and more suited towards superheroes. I also had a bunch of hero clicks for minis, and I felt like I needed that for whatever reason. So, we start with Mutants and Masterminds. Mutants and Masterminds, although a complicated powers system, the rest of the game is fairly light compared to something like Dungeons and Dragons. Savage Worlds, even lighter because the powers are less complicated. So I'm coming from a place of narrative focus, fast, cinematic gameplay. We want the biggest, coolest, holy shit moment that really doesn't live in reality. Not that Dungeons and Dragons is reality, but I think we kind of treat it that way, don't we? That's interesting. So those games, it really felt like the mechanics were to support the story, not to hinder the story in any way. Minor note, Mutants and Masterminds, I suppose the powers do really get into the nitty-gritty of more metrics and measurements than Dungeons and Dragons does, I think, to some degree. But it's really just the powers. The rest is pretty easy going. Yeah, you know what? They do have mechanics for like super speed and stuff, so maybe that's unfair. But in play, it doesn't feel that way once you get over the powers. The point is, by the time I got to Dungeons and Dragons, I was already in my 30s and I had opinions on tabletop gaming, despite those opinions being fairly new and from games that were fairly different from Dungeons and Dragons. And the first campaign that we played was Lost Mines of Phandelver. And I've got to be honest with you, I didn't have to GM it, so that was awesome. That was my primary concern. Someone else GM'd it. And it was a lot of fun, and the reason why it felt like a lot of fun from the beginning was the character creation. It felt a lot like a video game. It felt a lot like a video game. There's the paper buttons. You get to push all the fun little paper buttons, and then when you level up, that was also pretty neat. Big number, good number, go up. That was a lot of fun for the first time, and I mean, times after that too, but especially the first time. The first time was really cool. In Savage Worlds, you're building more horizontally, whereas D&D, it's not fair to say that it's vertical. It's probably like this, but definitely a lot more vertical than Savage Worlds. So that campaign had a really strong onboarding for new players, which was helpful. There were some things that I really struggled to wrap my head around. The proficiency bonus, that is so weird. The proficiency bonus is so weird, and so is rolling your stats and then deriving a number from that, but that stat, for the most part, not mattering that much. NOTTTT kind of like cuts that away, sort of. That took some getting used to. There's a lot of things that feel like they come from a tradition that probably could have been more efficient, but they keep it there for tradition's sake. But yeah, D&D, in a way, especially with Lost Mines of Phandelver, it was kind of nice to basically get into the loop of, okay, we create our characters, we have an adventure, we go there, we fight, we kill, we loot, we rest, we travel, we fight, we kill, we loot, and then we rest. And it was kind of that. I mean, that really is the gameplay loop of D&D. But the games that we had played before that, we really had other things that we could do in a weird, like, you can do so much with D&D, and every group is obviously going to be different, but the way the game is built is absolutely tailored towards fighting everything. I remember there was a random encounter, or maybe it wasn't a random encounter, maybe it was intentional, but there were goblins, and I wanted to talk to the goblins. The DM was like, the goblins attack you. I'm like, what? What? I don't have other choices? Like, I can only fight all the time? May or may not have been the right choice. Another DM could have maybe opened up that option, but yeah, I was willing to try other things. From there, we went into Tyranny of Dragons, and that campaign is actually still going on to this day. It should be ending soon, but I'm not playing it anymore because it's hard. It's hard for me to, with my life, my schedule, and the distance that it takes to get there. I'm just not playing anymore. It hurts me to let that go, but that's what I did. But yeah, Tyranny of Dragons. Tyranny of Dragons and Curse of Strahd kind of happened at the same time. Two very different campaigns. Tyranny of Dragons being this massive campaign, and I think that's when I started to see like D&D bursting at the seams in some way. I started to see the imperfections of D&D, and that's no fault of the DM or the players or anything like that. I think just that campaign is kind of tough, especially whenever you start traveling really far, traveling for like God knows how many days, and like how do you even deal with that? Book doesn't really prepare you very well, just kind of like, all right, a lot of time is about to pass. Are you about to have like 180 random encounters? Are you gonna make a story out of this? What are you gonna do? But yeah, Tyranny of Dragons that's a massive campaign. Made another really fun character. It's cool doing the build stuff and multi-classing, and yeah, that's fun. It's just so much, and I remember there were a few moments where I think there's just so much assumed knowledge in D&D or the Forgotten Realms, whatever the hell it is, where there's just weird assumptions that, like, I feel like other games, they do like fun twists on dwarves and elves and all this other stuff. But I remember we had a changeling in our party, and I just remember thinking, like, we're in a major city, like they should probably be concerned about the changeling and probably treating that changeling poorly, because I mean, if it were me in any society, anyone who can look like someone else, that would be a problem. And if they have defenses against that, why are we not aware of that? So those are kind of the questions that I ask that I think are really cool in games like Shadow of the Demon Lord or Forbidden Lands, or Blades in the Dark, where you really, the scope is smaller. With the scope being smaller in those games, you're able to get very detailed information on the individual worlds and races and stuff. So a challenge that I'm seeing with D&D is that there's almost like this barrier to entry, not just in mechanics, but also in like the lore, which kind of sucks. That makes me feel bad for other people that want to break into the hobby and that being their first experience. But yeah, if you want super heroic Tyranny of Dragons, yeah, you're definitely you're chasing godhood, I feel like. Curse of Strahd, other side of that coin, in the complete opposite direction, I feel like, in a cool and refreshing way, in my opinion. But I did realize something with both of these campaigns, and that's that D&D does its best work when the GM is doing a lot of heavy lifting. And it made me realize and appreciate that Savage Worlds, you can do so much with so little in Savage Worlds. Mutants and Masterminds kind of too, but Savage Worlds, man, there were times where I had things planned and we didn't even get to those things, and I could really just run off of an index card and be good for a whole session. Now here's the kicker. Here's the thing that surprised me the most about playing D&D. The D&D had the opposite effect on me that I think it had on a lot of my friends, and that is that playing D&D did not make me want to play more D&D. Playing D&D made me want to play other games. Now that's not to say that D&D is bad, and this is 5th edition, by the way. This is not to say that D&D, that I hate D&D the game or the system. Wizards of the Coast and some of those shenanigans is a whole different story. But D&D, I mean, I appreciate it for what it is, and it is a cultural touchstone that can bring more people into the hobby, which is nice. And it kind of shows you how important like a common language can be in a community. But it made me realize how important the system is. The system in the world, and the closer you can marry those two together for the style of play that you want, I think it's incredible when it happens the way that it does. And like Blades in the Dark comes to mind. Blades in the Dark does such a good job of those two things reinforcing each other from beginning to end. Dungeons and Dragons is obviously about more than just combat. But most of the time, it's combat focused. Everything points towards combat. All the rules, of course there are other things that you can do. And I'm sure in the comments people are going to say, well, you can do this and you get this ability for that. Sure, of course. But we're not really going to argue that D&D is not about combat, right? And that's why D&D taught me that comparing game philosophies instead of systems is important. What is this game trying to accomplish, and is that something that I'm in the mood for? A lot of us are very busy with limited time. So what is it that I'm trying to get after? I've learned, which is probably part of the reason I haven't played a lot of D&D since, is that I can get the feeling of D&D with less steps from other systems. If you want D&D specifically, if you want to feel the power of D&D as a whole, I mean, by all means, go ahead and you can still do it. But I'm a big fan of efficiency. See, that was really my lesson with D&D. It didn't make me hate D&D, although sometimes I joke that it may make it seem that way. Don't hate D&D. I don't hate systems. I don't hate D20 systems. I don't love D20 systems, but for me, I love diversity. I love to try so many different things. I kind of love everything, just at different points. If I don't like it, chances are I just haven't learned to love it yet. Almost everything that I like, RuneQuest. I was so against RuneQuest at a couple years ago. Now I love RuneQuest. So at the end of the day, just remember that the setting and the system is really just a lens to look through to develop a feeling that you're looking for at that time. Are you looking for a very tight dungeon crawl and you just want to kill baddies? You might be in the mood for something like NOTTTT. That's a solo game, but maybe not a solo game. Maybe Shadow Dark, if you want exploration to be the focus. Maybe you don't want combat to be the focus. Maybe you're looking for, we kept talking about Blades in the Dark, so maybe you're looking for dealing with factions and finding your way through the city and leveling up your gang as a whole, maybe doing some shisty stuff in the city. Maybe you're looking to, not to keep it into Blades in the Dark, but Band of Blades. Maybe you want to be fighting at a high level against something that you can never defeat, and you want to be like on a battlefield. Band of Blades. Very similar to the way I treat, or treated, maybe not so much now, kind of, but music and movies. I am in the mood for comedy. I need to pick me up. I will choose this. I am in the mood, I'm gonna work out. I need some heavy rock. You get the idea. Treat your tabletop gaming the way you treat other forms of media to match the mood and what it is that you're looking for at that time. I'm Sacred. This is the Sacred Art of Gaming. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Sacred Chronicle as we discuss Dungeons and Dragons. Don't forget to like the video if you did enjoy the video, and comment your details and your experiences with Dungeons and Dragons. This is the first and maybe only time that this comes up, unless one day I just try to like solo D&D and show it on camera. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot of D&D plans. So, and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I guess it's possible if you're a D&D person, this could be your first time seeing me. So hello, nice to meet you. I'll see you in the next one as we continue to explore the sacred art of gaming together.